thing we have to fear is
in war.
fear itself.
There is no substitute for victory.
Let us never negotiate out of fear.
We stand undivided, forever united, fighting hand in hand for the liberty we've earned, for glory and honor, for our sons and daughters, ever mindful of the lessons we've learned. Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome to the intersection of faith and politics. This is WallBuilders Live with David Barton and Rick Green. Thank you so much for joining us. You can visit our websites at wallbuilders.com and wallbuilderslive.com. Wealth of information at both of those websites. There at wallbuilders.com, be sure and click on those articles, all kinds of topics David has written about over the years. Also, you'll get a great news feed there on the homepage as well. And then, of course, the incredible DVDs and books that David has put out over the years, some phenomenal products with incredible information for you and your family to get educated about who we are as a nation, where we came from, and what that secret sauce is that makes our nation so great, so that you and I can do our part in preserving and protecting it. My name is Rick Green. David is not with us today. We're actually going to have Ken Ivory with us today. He's a state representative from Utah. And I shouldn't say with us. We're actually going to go to Ken. We're going to go to the ProFamily Legislators Conference. We're going to pick up right where we left off from yesterday. It's a two-part series, and we got the first part yesterday. But if you're just tuning in for the first time or first time this week, don't worry. You can go to our website right now at wallbuilderslive.com. Click on the archives, and you can grab yesterday's program and get caught up. But for now, we're going to pick up right where we left off yesterday. The speaker you're going to hear is Ken Ivory. We have a lot of incredible speakers that come to the ProFamily Legislators Conference, and we try to share those with you here on WallBuilders Live as much as we can. And if you'd like some more of those, you can get those in that same archive section there at the website, wallbuilderslive.com. But Ken's a state representative from the state of Utah, and he's the president of American Lands Council. That website is americanlandscouncil.org. We'll have a link to that today at wallbuilderslive.com, so it's easy for you to get over there. But he shared a wealth of information with the legislators at the conference, and we wanted to share that with you, our listeners. So we're going to go right back to the ProFamily Legislators Conference and pick up with Ken Ivory here on WallBuilders Live.
We look to the states to defend their prerogatives by adopting the simple expedient of not yielding to federal blandishments. And my favorite in there, states are separate and independent sovereigns. Sometimes they have to act like it. Not ask like it, not litigate like it, to act like it, to pull on the rope. Because without pulling on the rope, there's no balance. Separate, divided from the rest. Independent, not subject, not subordinate, not subject to bias or influence. Sovereign, supreme in power, superior to all others. This is the Supreme Court 2 years ago. Separate, independent sovereigns. States form distinct and independent portions of the supremacy. How many times have you heard from your staff, well, the supremacy clause, you lose? Yeah, that's a great idea, Representative, but the supremacy clause, you lose. Well, the Supreme Court about 15, 20 years ago, 17 years ago, states form, they quote Madison, Federalist 39, says, states form distinct and independent portions of the supremacy. No more subject to the general authority within their sphere than the general authority is subject to them within its sphere. And you remember the spheres, of course. So supreme, supremacy, supreme, the highest place in government or power, the highest authority or power. States form distinct and independent portions of the supremacy. That's the United States Supreme Court. And yet we'll hear over and over and over again from our legislative attorneys, oh, supremacy, you lose. So I submit, in order for us to act where we're supposed to act, we have to grow up. That's what the Supreme Court was telling us. Grow up and be a real state. Grab that rope and pull. Because there's no way that the Supreme Court is going to answer enough questions one by one as they go through the process to restore that balance. You swore the oath. I swore the oath to pull on that rope. I had one of my legislative attorneys say, you mean civil disobedience? No, not at all. I mean the highest form of obedience to the oath that we swore to the Constitution, to provide that tension to keep that in balance. So we'll just go through this quickly. We've got a little book on this you can go through. But this is what we're told is government, right? The checks and balances. Executive, legislative, judicial. Madison tells us, however, this is what our government really looks like. The two spheres is the structural protection of liberty. A healthy balance of power between the states and federal government will reduce the risk of tyranny from either front. Supreme Court again. Quoting Madison in Federalist 51, in the compound republic of America, not the republic, the compound republic, the republic of republics of America, the power is divided among two governments, and they control each other as a double security to the rights of the people. If we're not pulling, it's not about us. If we're not pulling, it's about our businesses. It's about our teachers. It's about our parents. It's about our students. It's about our property owners. In fact, Madison said that the balance in that government, few and defined, numerous and indefinite. But if we don't understand our jurisdiction, jurisdiction we don't know is no better than jurisdiction we don't have. Jurisdiction we don't exercise is no better than jurisdiction we don't have. It must be done by the states themselves, erecting barriers at the constitutional line that cannot be surmounted. If there be no such line, we must be mere vassals, or we must be totally independent. The genius in our system was the line. The genius in our system was that tension. James Wilson, the Constitution deserves praise for the accuracy with which we drew that line. So that question for us, for our alleged counsel, for everyone that we deal with, where is that line? We have to understand our jurisdiction, or what are we doing? We're playing government. The state legislatures will jealously and closely watch the operations of this government, be able to resist with more effect every assumption of power better than any power on earth can do, because they are the sure guardians of the people's liberty.
Have you ever wanted to learn more about the United States Constitution but just felt like, man, the classes are boring, or it's just that old language from 200 years ago, or I don't know where to start? People want to know, but it gets frustrating because you don't know where to look for truth about the Constitution either. Well, we've got a special program for you available now called Constitution Alive with David Barton and Rick Green, and it's actually a teaching done on the Constitution at Independence Hall, in the very room where the Constitution was framed. We take you both to Philadelphia, the cradle of liberty, and Independence Hall, and to the WallBuilders Library, where David Barton brings the history to life to teach the original intent of our founding fathers. We call it the Quick Start Guide to the Constitution because in just a few hours through these videos, you will learn the Citizen's Guide to America's Constitution. You'll learn what you need to do to help save our constitutional republic. It's fun, it's entertaining, and it's going to inspire you to do your part to preserve freedom for future generations. It's called Constitution Alive with David Barton and Rick Green. You can find out more information on our website now at wallbuilders.com.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
In Federalist 46, they give us a list of what our tools are. This is Madison in selling the Constitution. Encroachments of the federal government on the authority of the state governments. Does that sound familiar today? It's almost like they knew human nature when they wrote that document, don't you think? Ambitious encroachments of the federal government on the authority of the states would not excite the opposition of a single state or a few states only. It would be signals of general alarm. Every government would espouse the common cause. A correspondence would be opened. Plans of resistance would be concerted. One spirit would animate the conduct of the whole. In fact, unless they voluntarily renounced the innovation, the same appeal to a trial of force would be had in the case of a federal intrusion as it would be if it were a foreign invasion. One set of representatives would be contending against 13, the whole body of their common constituents on the side of the latter. Hamilton, the big government guy. It may safely be received as an axiom that the state governments will, in all possible contingencies, afford complete security against invasions of the public liberty by the national authority. The state legislatures will have better means of information. They'll discover the danger at a distance, possessing all the organs of civil power and the confidence of the people. Congress is what, 6% approval right now? The confidence of the people, that's that power, that moral authority. Adopt a regular plan of opposition, combine all the resources, readily communicate, and unite their common forces in the defense of their common liberty. Madison goes on to say that the state government will have the advantage of the federal government. He said it's not even close. It's not even close. You possess so much power over here, you could pull him your way whenever you want to. It's not even close. The powers respectively vested, the predilections and support of the people, the disposition and faculty of resisting the frustrations of each other. It's not even close. But so in our states, we go around building these beautiful sandcastles. Education policy based on what local parents and teachers and principals want, only to have the federal tide come and wash them away. We build these beautiful sandcastles in our state about how to take care of our sick and our poor, only to have the federal tide come in and wash them away again and again and again. Land use policy that actually gets to health and productivity of our land, only to have one-size-fails-all federal policies come in and wash those sandcastles away. Well, we can keep doing that, or maybe we build a wall, a seawall, as the wall builders that you all are. How grateful we are for David and Cheryl and Tim that put this together. It's our job. Unless we build that wall, we'll continue to do the same thing over and over and over again and expect different results. That wall is our jurisdiction. In fact, Dickinson said it will be our own faults if we allow the federal government to continue to interfere in the things of our jurisdiction. We have no one to blame but ourselves. It's very popular to point the finger at Washington and say, those guys out there. But you swore the oath, and it's your job to man that rope. It's my job to man that rope. We have no one to blame but ourselves. Jurisdiction, again, the power of governing or legislating. In the 1950s, they had a situation in the Eisenhower administration. A state had a big VA hospital, and in the VA hospital, they said, well, you're not paying taxes to occupy all that land, so we're not going to provide police and fire, and your kids can't come to our schools. And the federal government got very alarmed. They said, we have to understand this concept of jurisdiction. And they ordered up the most comprehensive study ever done on the subject of jurisdiction of the federal government within the states. I've got a copy of it over here you can look at. And we've got some thumb drives afterwards that we need your help. And this will be on the thumb drives as well. U.S. Attorney General, Comptroller General, all the states' attorneys general, 33 federal agencies. When have you seen a work product produced by a group like that before? It's singular. The committee reviewed 1,000 state and federal cases, textbooks, everything they could find on the subject. The committee notes there's never before been conducted a study on the subject of legislative jurisdiction, even approaching in comprehensiveness of the survey of facts and law. They came up with 4 categories of authority. One is exclusive legislative jurisdiction. That's where the federal government is the government within the state. It's a military base, a fort. They bought it with the consent of the legislature, exclusive legislative jurisdiction. Concurrent jurisdiction is where the state legislature has said, we'll share our jurisdiction with you. Partial jurisdiction, where again the state legislature said, we'll let you use some of our jurisdiction. Notice how that happens. The general rule is the jurisdiction, the governing right, power, and authority for the lives, liberties, property, health, safety, welfare of the people resides with the states. The states.
This is David Barton with another moment from America's history. In several decisions over recent years, the Supreme Court has consistently ruled that it is unconstitutional for the government to encourage religion. Did our founding fathers agree with this? Consider the words of Henry Laurens, a signer of the Constitution and a president of Congress. Henry Laurens declared, "I had the honor of being one who framed that Constitution. In order effectually to accomplish these great ends set forth in the Constitution, it is especially the duty of those who bear rule to promote and encourage respect for God and virtue, and to discourage every degree of vice and immorality." Founding Father Henry Laurens believed that the goals of the Constitution could not be fulfilled apart from a fear and a respect for God, and that it was therefore the duty of government to encourage this among the people.
For more information on God's hand in American history, contact WallBuilders at 1-800-8-REBUILD.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
If and only if the state consents to share or cede some of its jurisdiction to the federal government, does it ever get jurisdiction. The fourth category is really fascinating. They said this is mere proprietorial interest only. And they said that this is where the federal government has some right or title to land within the state, but has not obtained any measure of the state's authority. The proprietorial interest, the state retains all the jurisdiction over the area as it would if a private individual rather than the states had owned the land. That in the so-called public domain, that vast area, more than 50% of the land in the western United States, but you have some of those areas in your state, the legislative jurisdiction with respect to them remained in the several states. The vast area of land that constitute the public domain is held by the United States in a mere proprietorial interest only. No jurisdiction. And yet jurisdiction we don't know is no better than jurisdiction we don't have. Jurisdiction we don't exercise is no better than jurisdiction we don't have. As to the powers reserved by the states for exercise by itself, it is as though the United States had no jurisdiction whatsoever. But jurisdiction we don't know is no better than jurisdiction we don't have. There's a full legal brief on that as well, 250 pages, thousands of cases. Let me give you a specific example. Can you believe this? In a nation founded on equal protection of the law, fundamental fairness, more than 50% of the land mass of the United States in the western United States is controlled by the federal government. 30% of the entire land mass of the United States, 262 million acres up in Alaska. I have to apologize to our friends in Alaska. If I put Alaska to scale on the map, it would be 3 times larger than Texas. So I always have to apologize. It's incredibly huge. Land. Think about land. Property is liberty. Liberty is what gives our life meaning. Without property, I mean, Bob explains that so well. Without property, you don't have liberty. Without liberty, you're a slave. And yet in our nation, we do this. So with that, what impacts? Well, we also, because they're now controlling that, as Bob explained so very well, now we're shutting down access all over these lands. You know what happened a year ago, right? The federal government just closed all the national parks, $8 billion industry just in Utah. Wildfires more than 250 acres, $150 trillion in minerals locked up in federally controlled lands. $150 trillion. More recoverable oil than the rest of the world combined. You think of the opportunity. Supreme Court just last year, not only do states retain sovereignty under the Constitution, there's a fundamental principle of equal sovereignty. Our nation was and is a union of states equal in dignity, power, and authority. The constitutional equality of the states is essential to the harmonious operation of the very scheme upon which the Republic was balanced. The constitutional equality of the states is essential that we pull together to keep that in the middle. So we need your help. When I was young, this is what my grandmother's chickens looked like, and I went out and they would peck and they'd go crazy and they scared me to death. And a few years ago when I got chickens, I was all concerned and I went to put the armor on to go get the eggs, and my chickens looked like this. I actually went back to the store and I said, there's something wrong with my chickens. And they said, what do you mean? I said, they don't peck. They said, oh yeah, we bred that out of them. Dear friends, we cannot allow the peck, the jurisdiction, to be bred out of us. We need your help. This is a request for proposal where we have in Utah, our Commission on Federalism is now sending out to get a curriculum on federalism so that we can train our lawyers what the rights, powers, and authorities of the state are, because they don't know. They can't do what they don't know, and they simply don't know. If you ask them, can you please tell me one power reserved to the state, this jurisdiction possessed by the states but not the federal government? Just tell me one. I know it's all that wasn't delegated. Just tell me one. They can't do it. They can't do it. So we're starting with a curriculum. We have to start where we are and move that way. What we need your help on the American Lands Council website, you can sign up and join this team we have to pull together. You can get on there and sign up. There's a petition on there that you can sign. But most importantly, Eastern states, South Carolina, where's our friend from South Carolina? South Carolina passed a resolution supporting the transfer of public lands because property is liberty, and liberty is what gives life meaning. And so the more we pull together, because the issue of my jurisdiction is as fundamental that we pull together as that I pull together on the issue of your jurisdiction, because that's what creates the balance.
Hey, this is Tim Barton with WallBuilders. And as you've had the opportunity to listen to WallBuilders Live, you've probably heard the wealth of information about our nation, about our spiritual heritage, about the religious liberties, about all the things that makes America exceptional. And you might be thinking, as incredible as this information is, I wish there was a way that I could get one of the WallBuilders guys to come to my area and share with my group, whether it be a church, whether it be a Christian school or public school or some political event or activity. If you're interested in having a WallBuilder speaker come to your area, you can get on our website at www.wallbuilders.com, and there's a tab for scheduling. And if you'll click on that tab, you'll notice there's a list of information from speakers' bios to events that are already going on, and there's a section where you can request an event to bring this information about who we are, where we came from, our religious liberties and freedoms. Go to the WallBuilders website and bring a speaker to your area.
Let the torch of freedom
Galatians 5:1 says, stand fast in the liberty wherewith Christ has made us free, and be not entangled again in the yoke of bondage. We're free. We're free from mistakes we may make, from bad things people will say about us. We're free even if we should perish in the process. Stand fast in the liberty wherewith Christ has made us free, and be not entangled again in the yoke of bondage. And our job is to pull together, or we violate the oath that we took. We can't thump our chest and say, look at those guys violating the Constitution all day long. As Pastor Brooks said last night, is it going to be hard? Yeah, it's going to be hard. Do we need to teach? Yeah, kind of remedial seminary every single day. We have to teach. We have to teach, and we have to stand, and we have to pull, and we have to pull together. I love that quote that David says. That he quotes Ronald Reagan. I've taken that for every speech I ever give because I just love it so much. Ronald Reagan, 1987, height of the Cold War, nuclear proliferation, red phones. I would say it's as tense now as it ever was then, and if he were here, he would say the same thing. This is a wonderful time to be alive. We're lucky not to live in pale and timid times. We've been blessed with the opportunity to stand for something, for liberty and freedom and fairness, and I would submit property. These are things worth fighting for, worth devoting our lives to. So let us go forth with good cheer and stout hearts, happy warriors, out to seize back a country and a world of freedom. Thank you very much.
Well, you've been listening to WallBuilders Live. Ken Ivory, our guest today, actually coming to us from a live presentation that he gave for us at the ProFamily Legislators Conference. Special thanks to Ken for that. Check out his website at AmericanLandsCouncil.org. AmericanLandsCouncil.org. We'll have a link today at WallBuildersLive.com to make it easy for you to get over there. What you were just listening to was Ken speaking to the ProFamily Legislators Conference. That's a conference we do every year for state reps and state senators from across the nation. It's an incredibly encouraging time, not only for them. I can tell you, I'm a former legislator, but every year at the conference, I've been out of the legislature for, over a decade. I shouldn't age myself, but going to the conference still, even as a non-legislator, just a citizen that wants to help preserve freedom, is so encouraging for me because I watch these legislators get excited. I watch them exchange great ideas, hear from great speakers, and go back to their states and get good legislation passed. And then the next year, we hear them come back and share with us the victories that occurred in their particular state. So it's an incredibly encouraging event, and that's why we love sharing the speakers with you here on WallBuilders Live. So be sure and check out the archive link on our website so that you can go back and grab some more of the programs. We've had several of these state legislators share with us here on the program, and also several of the speakers that we had this year at the ProFamily Legislators Conference. We have shared with you here on the radio in the last few weeks. We had Catherine Engelbrecht, does an incredible job with True the Vote. Had her a couple of weeks ago, and you can get that archive there on the archive section. We had Todd Starnes. You probably read Todd on Fox News and other outlets. We had George Barna. If you haven't read a George Barna book, you got to get a hold of some of Barna's research. His books are incredible, and he and David just did a brand new book called U-Turn that is packed with information that will scare you first. It'll shock you at what's happening in America today in our churches with regard to worldview and the numbers. It's not good, folks, but they give you a game plan. They give you an encouraging game plan for how to turn it around. Anyway, several speakers like that from the ProFamily Legislators Conference this year, and it's all there on our archive section at WallBuildersLive.com. Also check out WallBuilders.com and also join us on Facebook. We'd love for you to get engaged in the conversations there with David at his Facebook page and also on my Facebook page at Rick Green. My Facebook page is Patriot Rick Green. So love to have you join us and get involved in the conversation. We're out of time for today. I want to thank you for listening. My name is Rick Green. You've been listening to WallBuilders Live with David Barton and Rick Green. Now we want to encourage you to go out there and use it. Take action. Ask yourself, what's the one thing I can do today, right here where I live, in my life, what I'm doing with either my family or something in my community, something I can do, small or big, that will help to preserve freedom for future generations. Now go take some action. Thanks for listening to WallBuilders Live.
We stand undivided forever.